So this is your equation for compound interest. Okay, simple interest doesn't have the adjustment for this n value. Simple interest would be everything but the n's here. But when you're looking at compound interest, here's what the different pieces of this equation mean. Okay, the A, capital A here, is the account value at time t. Okay, so this is what the amount is that's in your account. Okay, the P value is called the principal. Okay, and this is the initial amount. Okay, or it's the amount at time 0. Okay, the next thing that you see here is the R value. The R value is the interest rate, which is APR, annual percent rate. And it's in a decimal form. Okay, so 12% is 0.12, 8% is 0.08. Okay, the N value is the number of compoundings per year. And it's going to be one of the following. If it says annually, then the number of compoundings is 1. If it's semi-annually, the number of compoundings is 2. If it's quarterly, there's 4 quarters in a year. If it's monthly, there's 12 months in a year. If it's weekly, you're assuming normal, not leap years. So there's 52 weeks in a year. If it's daily, again, you're assuming it's not a leap year, so 365. And then you might also see hourly. And hourly would just be 365 times 24, which would give you 8760. And so those would be the different possible values you might use for n, depending on what the question asks you. And then finally, the last variable is t, and that's time, and that's calculated in terms of years. Okay, so this is what you would be using for calculating compound interest. And so you're going to be plugging in all the pieces except for one, and then solving for that unknown. Okay, so like in this first example here, if you deposit 2,800, that's your initial amount. So our value at time t, and we actually know what time t is here, 24 years. So A of 24 is going to be 2,800 times 1 plus our interest rate is 0.06 over the number of compoundings, because it's quarterly, the n value is 4, and that's all to the power of 4 times 24. Okay, now, setting them up is not usually the part that causes the issue. The part that causes the issue is the calculation of these, because order of operations is taken into account. So when you are plugging this in here, 2,800 times the quantity 1 plus 0.06 over 4. And make sure that the division of 4 is only by the rate. It's not 1.06 all divided by 4. It's 1 plus 0.06 over 4. And then that's all to the power of. Make sure it's inside its own grouping symbol. If you have a calculation, 4 times 24, make sure that whole thing is calculated there. And when you hit enter, you get your solution, which is 11,692. And when you are writing your answers, you're going to round it as you would to the nearest penny, even though it doesn't specifically say. So when I look at this, I have 11,692.25. And so that would be my catalog. But go into my apps, and I scroll to where it says Numeric Solver, and you hit enter. What you can do is you can enter a full equation, so that has both sides of an equation on it. Okay, so you can see here on this one I've already entered the quadratic formula. But if I enter my compound interest, so if I say here A equals, and then P times 1 plus, and I use r divided by t. I'm sorry, r divided by n. Close that off and take it to the power of, in parentheses, n times t. Okay, so if I enter this equation one time, okay, I simply need to remember and know that this is my equation for compound interest. That's now going to be stored in that numeric solver. So I'll be able to go back and access it later, but notice it gives me values for all of the variables. Whichever one I want to solve for, and it could be a, it could be p, n, t, or r, it could be any of those variables that I want to solve for, I leave blank. The other ones I fill in the given information. So my principal was 5,000. My number of compoundings was 8760. My time was 15. And my rate was 0.04. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the spot that I want to solve for. And notice one of my options up here in the tabs, F2, is a solve tab. When I'm in that field and I hit F2, it's going to calculate and it will tell me what the answer is. So my answer here is $9,110 and 58 cents.